So why are less economically developed countries more vulnerable to earthquakes? A natural hazard is something that has a potential risk to human life or property. The intensity of an earthquake hazard can depend upon physical factors such as the location of the epicenter, depth of focus, foundation material, duration of shaking, and even the time of day. However, this can also be intensified by human factors, and as a result, when managed correctly under human intervention, the risk and vulnerability can be reduced. There are three main steps to reducing the hazard. These are modifying the event, modifying the vulnerability, before finally modifying the loss. One way of modifying the event is by incorporating resistant aseismic building designs. There are three main types, including concrete counterweight building blocks, shock absorbers, and twisting towers. These designs reduce the chance of a building collapsing, preventing further loss of life, and reducing the chance of a hazard becoming a disaster. However, these designs are not always possible, especially within LEDCs where they're unable to fund these buildings. This highlights how globally earthquakes can become larger hazards in LEDCs. This can be seen in the 2010 Haiti earthquake, where a lack of funds and governance meant that there were no building codes, which led to the destruction of 60% of Haitian hospitals, and transport links and roads were destroyed, which saw 1.5 million homeless. This then led to secondary deaths, as these people had to move into makeshift camps with poor hygiene standards, leading to the spread of disease. This was also the case in the 2005 Kashmir earthquake, as people died due to the cold. In comparison, following the Christchurch earthquake in New Zealand, the government were able to move citizens into safe shelters, while insurance covered the majority of properties. Secondly, humans can modify the vulnerability of an earthquake by aiming to lessen the impacts by prediction, warning, and community preparedness. Prediction and warning can be on a variety of scales, including globally, where a region's risk can be identified using the plate tectonics theory, but also regionally, where seismologists can use previous magnitude and frequency to pinpoint areas at risk and predict the probability of future earthquakes. Furthermore, scientists have been able to predict earthquakes by monitoring changes in groundwater levels, radon gas, and unusual animal behavior. This allowed for the successful prediction of the 1975 Haixing earthquake in China, 5 hours before the event, allowing for 90,000 people to evacuate. However, yet again, LEDCs are unable to invest in these types of schemes and therefore rely solely upon non-profit organisations such as GEM. This lack of prediction caused a disaster in the 2004 Indian Ocean tsunami, where no alert system existed, despite warnings that the area was vulnerable to seismic activity. This resulted in the death of 200,000 people. Furthermore, people in LEDCs increase their vulnerability by living in high-density areas and refusing to migrate out of high-risk areas, as there are no insurances or alternative incomes. Another way of modifying the vulnerability is through community preparedness, which allows people time to migrate, saving lives. One country that prepares its community is Japan, which practices earthquake drills and educates children on disasters. However, this was not practiced in LEDCs such as Sri Lanka and Thailand, which resulted in people running towards the 2004 tsunami as they didn't understand what was happening, increasing the death tolls. Education in these areas still remain low. However, countries at risk such as Indonesia now have evacuation signs warning people of the risks. Japan also texts locals when an earthquake is predicted and sends TV warnings. This is another scheme that is difficult to implement in LEDCs like Haiti, where communication systems are poor. Furthermore, companies such as Tokyo Gas can help modify the vulnerability by creating seismic networks which transmit information about pipeline damage. This is so gas can be switched off, reducing the fire risk in gas explosions. This was created after the 2011 earthquake, where nuclear explosions and ruptured gas pipes contaminated water supplies globally. The final step to minimising the hazard is through modifying the loss. While MEDCs can rely on insurances to pay for damages, LEDC countries rely on aid to provide relief, rehabilitation and reconstruction. This is often on a global scale and usually takes days, increasing the vulnerability of the people still alive. Short-term emergency aid aims to reduce primary deaths through rescue operations, but also by reducing secondary deaths by providing water and shelter. Aid was vital in the 2004 Indian Ocean tsunami, where $6.25 billion was donated, supporting 14 countries. The World Food Programme also delivered 110,000 tonnes of food, feeding more than 2 million people, while UNICEF provided clean water and immunisation to reduce the spread of disease. However, in countries such as Haiti, unreliable electric powers, communication lines and roads hindered aid. There is also long-term aid which focuses on the reconstruction and resilience. UNICEF maintained its help in the region by increasing education, encouraging disaster preparedness and improving health services. This highlights without aid, vulnerability would dramatically increase in LEDCs. To conclude, lack of economic wealth can dramatically increase vulnerability as LEDCs are unable to fund new seismic resistant structures, emergency plans, education, and expensive training exercises. LEDCs are also unable to afford technology to predict these disasters, and once they have taken place, they rely on international aid, which can take days.